come on, like, even not even in a romantic aspect, you'd think that he would, because of like all the commonalities that they have, that he wouldn't mind introducing her into the group or something like that, just as a friend or something like that. But like, she was just a throwaway character, which bums me out.
Because she had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ruined it for me. I thought she was coming back.
I thought you said you were on her IMDb. Did you not see that? It said one episode.
Touche.
Sneaky. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of the Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I am fantastic because we just watched Season 3, Episode 12 of The Psychic Vortex.
Oh, yeah.
For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob. This is my co-host, Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. Ryan has also been told he's very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a point tally of how close Ryan is to Sheldon.
And right now that point tally is at 82 points, not like Sheldon, 85 like Sheldon. This is total through all 3 seasons so far. So, you know, it's pretty neck and neck. I was not like him for a while, although I think he's won 2 years in a row. So I am feeling kind of Sheldon-y. But yeah, today's gonna bring up some discussion about that and something important I want to talk about. So yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this episode. I loved this episode.
I loved it. I love the IQ points. I love the episode. I laughed hard at several of them. It was just it was a good one.
So many IQ points.
Coming off of the back of the Christmas episode, and I usually love holiday episodes, but I think this is better than the Christmas episode this year.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't really Christmassy. The maternal congruence, not really.
Not really. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't. It could have been. I didn't have the heart, the warmth of Christmas.
That's the Del Taco.
That was the Del Taco. I didn't have Del Taco while eating or watching it there.
Well, a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into it. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. We will read your emails, good or bad, but try to be nice. We have feelings. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. And we already did the overall thoughts. We both loved it. So
yeah, there you go.
I think we could just dive in.
No new emails, no new reviews. So I think we're gonna. Yeah. Okay, so Season 3, Episode 12, The Psychic Vortex. This aired January 11th, 2010. Directed by Mark Sandrowski. Writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Eric Kaplan. Kaplan? You know, I've been doing a lot of poetry work this week about syllables and stressing and unstressed syllables, and I believe that stressing words is like completely fabricated by a culture. And like the more you listen to a word, the more you can stress different parts, and you forget how to say words completely. It's man, it's a terrible lesson that I'm not like good at teaching this.
Kaplan or Kaplan. Kaplan.
And
God, we're already off the rails.
Okay, back on. We're gonna do this. We're at the apartment. Howard and Lynn are getting ready for a double date. Howard says that it's great to be, dating together. The actual women are the best. And Sheldon gets confused because he doesn't understand what other kind of women there are. Leonard hands us over to Howard because he, his department is engineering, right? So he can discuss artificial women. And I get a point right off the bat on this one for being like Howard, because I'm usually the one who has to explain things, and especially sexual things that people don't really want to know about. Howard has to explain.
It's funny. You took that so much more innocent, as he's the engineer, so he took that as I took that as like Howard's the perv, so he would know artificial.
Wow. Like, that makes sense too. I took it as like he engineers them.
Yeah.
One of the first times playing Cards Against Humanity, and there was a card in there about tentacle porn, and like it came up and no one really knew what it was. I'm like, I know what it is. Of course Ryan does.
Of course Ryan does. I remember I had to explain to a group of girls. That got rough.
I was just watching.
Yeah, definitely bleeping that part out.
I was watching The Ultimatum. I think it was the first season, maybe it was the second season of The Ultimatum. And
the Netflix show?
Yeah, the Netflix show. And for some reason, it comes up the idea, and nobody knows what it is. And the host, who's Nicola Lachey, is that right?
Nick Lachey.
Yeah, and his wife are like, we don't know what it is. And like the most quiet girl on the show, who's like a nurse or something, she's, oh my god, I know what it is. And she hasn't explained. She hasn't said anything like the whole series or season. And she explains what is.
Wait, I don't even know what that is.
It's where, and you can bleep this out if you want to, but it's where guys in for sexual gratification.
Their own?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it called?
I don't know. I found out about this from a Chuck Palahniuk book, the guy who wrote Fight Club. And so,
was it in Fight Club?
It might have been.
Was that a deleted scene? Yeah, definitely bleeping
has a whole different character in that scene.
Bleeping all of this out.
And what was that one, that holiday? I was telling.
Wait, so what kind of tools? I'm very curious now.
I think they make like rods and stuff, like little metal rods or something.
Okay.
I think somebody told me that, but I haven't done too much research on the whole.
Yeah, I'm not looking that up. That is not going on my search history.
The other one was the other day I was telling a joke to Kelsey that I was watching this YouTube comic cartoonist where he was talking about most embarrassing incidents of his life, and he talks about how one time a guy pulled up his phone to show him some pictures of a vacation, and the thing that popped up was for beginners on a search page, and Kelsey's like, I don't know what that is, so I had explained. So all in all, I know what it's like to be handed off to Howard. We're gonna let you do this one. Ryan, you can explain this.
And you do it with such delight, though.
Right.
Howard actually was a little bit more tactful about it.
Which for Howard, I don't know why he's but
like, no, it'll just freak him out.
But we get into the first IQ point. Artificial women. I did some research on artificial women. I didn't know a whole lot. I knew I think most of my understanding comes from the Ryan Gosling movie, Lars and the Real Girl. Have you seen that?
I have.
Excellent movie. So anyways, I knew that there were love dolls that you could buy, and they're like life-size plastic rubber dolls. But so I searched, and there are a shit ton of sites. So you can get them all over the place. So I kind of did two sites and got some information from both of them, and I went down a rabbit hole with this. There was one called myrobotdoll.com, And starting at $8,999, you can have your own custom doll made. And they basically, what is it? Takes about 30 days. You send in photos. They recommend silicone for the face, especially. But what I see through this is that you can usually use thermoplastic elastomer, TEP, or silicone. And I have some information about those two choices later. You choose one photo for the expression. They can take additional requests. They recommend choosing clear specifications for implants, and by implants, they don't mean breasts, they mean eyebrows, eyelashes, hair, and other small details, cosmetics, fingernails and colorings and stuff. They like to get 3D photos for the head, but they will work with you if you're stuck in two-dimensional photography. Like, I don't know how you would get a three-dimensional head, but
Okay,
I guess
this is getting a little creepy that you just submit a photo of just some
anyone,
person.
right? Like, I don't know how this works. Like, you're just at the
Like
park
that's
and you're taking pictures of women, and suddenly you have a
oh
doll.
no.
Like
Oh
I don't
no. No
know.
no
It's
no.
kind of terrifying. Um,
We might want to cancel this this cancel this IQ point.
oh, it gets so much better.
Ryan, what have you done?
All right, so they claim that they can have a greater than 95% matching accuracy. That the skeletons, and on multiple sites I've seen that there's been upgrades to skeletons to make it more flexible and metallic. And later on, I saw that when choosing the height of your sex doll, you want to be sure you're able to manipulate them, because a metal skeleton gets pretty heavy, and a lot of people don't realize, oh, I can have like a 10-foot woman or something, and suddenly it like crushes them or something because it's metal on the inside. It
Yeah, I
talks
definitely want to see that statistic. How many,
right. How many
how many
people?
deaths and injuries from their sex doll?
this is exactly how I wanted to go out. They have some instructions about types of breasts you want. There's a whole thing about having a built-in vagina or a removable vagina. They claim both of them are very realistic, and most people want to go with the built-in, but everybody was recommending get inserts, because if you don't get the insert, that means you have to take the doll in the shower with you to clean it out. And as we've said before, the metal skeleton makes it very, very heavy, and apparently you can get models where there's like bolts in the feet that allow them to stand up by themselves. And if you have that type of model, it could cause rusting if you take it into the bath or shower with you. So there's a lot of issues where you want to make it as easy as possible to clean, and you don't want to be taken into the shower. But yeah, there are upgraded models where you can get heating controls and temperature controls and touch sensors for like soundtracks. They have like built-in speakers for some upgrades. You can get extra heads, so if you don't like your doll that night, you just knock off the head and put a new one on, and it's a whole different doll. Storage cases start off at like $799, and here's what the kicker: they make male dolls, and I looked into the male sex dolls. They
I was
got
actually going to ask that question.
a discount. They start off at $6,799. So women
Well,
get a little bit of a discount. I'm guessing this is
well, men
probably
are more pervy, so they got to
supply and
capitalize
demand.
on that.
Yeah. And what I noticed is on this website, it said like under the male sex dolls, it didn't say this under the female ones, but the male ones said the heating mechanisms are old and they don't highly recommend them because it can take more than 2 hours to heat up the doll. Like depending on
So
the size.
on a completely unrelated note, could you just rotate your head back and forth like this? I'm not taking any pictures or anything like that.
What type of expression would you like me to have, Rob?
Wait, so is it an actual robot then? Do they actually like move
As
and
far as I can tell, they don't move themselves. There's
so
nothing
it's just
that.
a life it's just more like a lifelike doll.
Yeah, with a metal skeleton
Okay.
and some like
Okay.
inserts to make them sound like
To
they're
make it more
talking.
lifelike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um the oh, and of course, what everybody's wondering right now is for the male ones, what about the penises? And they have penis adapters, so you can change out the penis from flaccid to erect. And this was kind of interesting because I noticed that there are two main sizes for the penises. One was a 5.9 incher, and the other one, the upgraded, was a 7.5 incher. So if you ever want to compare yourself to a sex doll, that's what you're looking at. The other website I was looking at, rosemarydoll.com, had several suggestions that I wanted to share with everybody because this might come in handy. They suggest researching the type of skin you want, that I mentioned earlier, the TPE or TP versus silicone. And technically, they both have their pros and cons. They both feel realistic in their own way. Some people like silicone more. I think yeah, they have different feelings and different lifespans and different maintenance. So you want to make sure you know what you're getting. This is the website that also said, think about the weight of the metal skeleton. They said, always get the standing feet, get the bolts in the feet, because while you move them, they are heavy. And if you're just dragging them everywhere, you're going to damage them. But with the standing feet, there's less of a chance of that. But again, they could develop rust, so be careful. Never buy cheap. Don't skimp on your sex doll. They suggest or say that there are places where you can get like an $800 doll. It's not going to be worth it. And they had several pictures, like comparisons, and they're like, it's a cheap knockoff. You're not going to like it. But more so, you might get an unsafe sex doll because the cheap ones might be made with chemicals that could cause harm to your skin and body. So, you're not just paying for the look and feel, but actually hygienic and safe doll usage. And also be able to contact the company, know who the company is, make sure you're able to contact them, because if an issue goes wrong, you want to be able to reach out and not have them just ignore you. So
that's got to be the most awkward customer service call.
Right? My doll's rusting. Make this better.
The vagina's pinching my penis.
There's something
I don't know
coming
why
out of its mouth. What?
Are we being rude that we automatically think that they're like what kind of accent is that? How do you say that?
I don't know.
Are we being stereotypical? Are we being rude right now?
We can try to make them Canadian. Well, I'm sorry about it, but I have a problem with my doll here. I don't know. The first website said that they started, I believe, in Brussels, Belgium. So, everybody, I was thinking that this is really a Japanese fad type thing. And I think there's a big push for like animated or dolls representing animated women, and a lot of like dresses that you can buy to cosplay them as animated characters. But from what I was noticing, it's not just a Japanese manufacturers, that they're all over the world. So any accent could do, really. I don't know.
Really, anyone. It's for sex dolls are for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of country, ethnicity, race.
Everybody deserves a doll. Just make sure you can carry it. Don't let it crash.
Oh my god. Awkward police call. I need an ambulance. I can't move. My doll is
my doll. Your Barbie doll, sir? Not my Barbie doll.
It's my Ken doll.
My Ken doll.
It was on sale.
It was on sale. It's starting to heat up real bad. Oh man. Alright, so that was my sex doll. I had fun with that one. I enjoy researching stuff like that for what it's worth.
Makes me wonder, did you tell Kelsey that you were researching that, or did she walk in on you and be like, "What are you doing?"
Not yet. I forgot to mention it to her, but boy, is she gonna have a conversation after this episode. Oh, Kelsey.
So, by the way, you're going to see some weird things on my search history. I swear it was for the podcast.
Then why'd you order one? I have to test out the merchandise, Kelsey.
It's called due diligence.
Dude. But don't worry, I took pictures of your face while you were sleeping. And it's gonna look just like you, babe.
Just like you, I swear.
You just imagine getting a phone call. Ryan, I opened up a package and it's me. I'm in the package. Why am I in the package?
Oh man.
Okay, so we can move on. Howard says to Leonard that he will be making out and he doesn't want it to be awkward for Bernadette, so he would appreciate if Leonard and Penny could get some action too. Leonard says not to worry, they're going to get it on the salad bar. Raj pops in and says he has the 4-hour version of Watchmen. And this is where IQ point 2 comes in. Did you do anything on this?
I did. I wasn't sure if I wanted to call it an IQ point, but you know what? If you're going to call it an IQ point, I'll do it too.
You know, I didn't think so at first, but the more I looked into it, I feel like this counts.
Okay, well, you probably looked into it a lot more than me. I just wanted to see if there actually was a 4-hour version, and technically there isn't. It's a 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate cut with the Black Rider. And I remember watching that. I watched that. I Netflixed it when it was on discs, when Netflix actually did discs, and I remember watching it. And when the Black Friday stuff came on, I was just like, "What is happening?" Did you ever watch it?
I've never seen that version. I've only seen the theatrical.
I feel like it's a very unrelated story to like the main storyline, and it cuts to animation. So it goes from live action to animation, and it just really throws you off. And I honestly, maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough, but I was like, what does this have to do with anything?
If I remember correctly, like the graphic novel was pretty different and pretty out there as well compared to the movie. The movie tries to make things make more sense, but if I remember correctly, like doesn't like a giant like war elephant come in and try to destroy everything at the end of the comic book? And it's completely taken out of the movie.
I think it was the dog thing.
Was it dog?
Remember at the very end how it had that like tiger dog thing?
Yeah.
That I remember someone was telling me that played a bigger role.
Yeah.
But it kind of just, because in the movie you're just like, what is that?
What the hell? And you know,
what?
Alan Moore did the book, and Alan Moore is known for doing some out there stuff, awesome stuff, but like out there, he pushes limits, or he tries to. So the movie, it makes sense that I want to see the ultimate cut now, because I wonder if it's more like what Alan Moore is envisioning. But yeah, what I came up with was I went to IMDb for most of this, but theatrical version was 162 minutes. The director's cut was 186, and it expanded some action scenes and had some additional exposition. The ultimate cut was 215 minutes. Yeah, there's the expanded action, the additional exposition from the director's cut, plus some more exposition segments and the Black Freighter short, which, as they quote, I quoted somebody on Reddit, to mimic the role as a story within a story in the graphic novel. So some meta storytelling features there. And what I found interesting, I looked this up on Amazon. The 4K version of the Ultimate Cut is $25. If you want to get it on Blu-ray, it's almost $100. And I think it's because the Blu-rays are just going out, and they're all like special editions now. But you have to be careful because none of them are listed as ultimate cuts for the Blu-rays. There's director's cuts. There's a lot with just nothing listed. Then there's limited editions and special editions. And I think I found the ultimate cut listed under limited edition. But yeah, they were like going for almost $100. And I'm like, well, I'll just get the 4K. But what else was there? Oh, I also wanted to mention that I think it's weird that they call it a director's cut, and I wonder, like, the ultimate cut, is it more the director's cut? And I'd like to talk to the director, because I've heard other directors say they get frustrated when they say, oh, it's the director's cut, because the director's like, I cut it down to what the theatrical version is. So technically, the one you see in theaters is my cut as well. It's just a different version of the movie. And so it's hard to say that it's more like what the director had in mind, because the director most likely had say in what every single version was going to be, just had more requirements to follow. So
I think yeah, the studio steps in with the theatrical cut
and
to
says
like, we
you
need
have
to
to
bring
cut
it down
down
to
this
this.
far.
You need to add this. We want this. Whereas the director's cut is like, this is my vision. This
Yeah,
is exactly how I wanted it.
and that's like what I always thought, but I heard a number of directors say, I worked really hard on the theatrical one, so to make it seem like it was somehow lesser than the director's cut was offensive to them. Like, that's an interesting way to
Hmm.
put it, because I always thought the director's cut was like, this is what it was supposed to be, and the producers made me do this or whatever it might be. So, anyways, I want to see this now, and I should probably get in on the 4K trend before that goes up to $100.
So yeah, I'm good. I've seen
You've seen
Watchmen
it.
enough times.
That's 3.5 hours of my life that I don't need to spend again.
I'm good.
Uh,
Did you watch the HBO series?
I watched the first episode and forgot about it.
It's good. It's
I've
real
heard
good.
good things. I don't know how
Yeah.
I forgot about it.
It brings up a lot of factual historical things, like the Tulsa event in
Yeah,
the first episode. Like, it's a forgotten thing in our history, which is crazy that something like that happened and it was basically almost erased from history. So it's great that they included it.
I think part of it was I started watching Lovecraft Country,
Oh yeah.
and that deals some with the Tulsa stuff as well. And I started mixing them up and thinking, oh, I finished the series, but I never went back to Watchmen. I finished up Lovecraft Country,
Mm. Was
which
that good?
I liked it, but it kind of opened it up for season two, and it did not get a season two.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, everyone's already seen it. They have it, and Sheldon's even written an analysis on it that's posted online. Howard mentions that they can't anyways because they are going on dates. He says these Broncos have been saddled and gives a little horse neigh, and they get going. Sheldon says him and Raj are going to have a great night because he needs to reinstall all the operating systems on his laptop, his computer, because he does not have enough room for his latest partition. He Raj says, I don't want to do that because, honestly, that sounds horrible. Raj, Sheldon suggests Raj looks into an artificial woman, and we go into the intro of this episode. So after the intro, we are back at the apartment, and Raj is looking up stuff to do. I don't know like where he's looking this up, but it's some sort of like newspaper saying like fun things to do in your area or something. And one of them is a Zoot Suit salute at Macy's. He thinks it sounds like a hoot. Sheldon does not, because he's not interested in anything linked with race riots. Did you go into this one?
I did.
Go for it.
And this is our next IQ points. You and I are like on track right now.
Right?
Yeah. Well, with the exception of the AI women, but
I was gonna say I went on a wormhole with the sex doll, so I'm gonna let you speak for a little while.
if anybody out there is still listening, you're about to learn about zoot suits
This
and
is
the
actually
zoot
a
suits
lot
riots.
more, I don't know, appropriate, useful, something.
Yeah. Well, I found this information on nationalww2museum.org. So yes, the zoot suit is associated with race riots in the 1940s. Well, first off, what is a zoot suit? Besides a very catchy song from the 90s, a zoot suit is a high-waisted pants with baggy pegged legs and a long coat with wide lapels. It was very trendy. It was a very trendy fashion statement to wear, and a bit of an insult to the man at the time, since in the 1940s there was the Great Depression, and these suits used an excessive amount of cloth during a time of scarcity. This fashion style was very popular amongst the Mexican and Filipino American men in California during the early war years. It was part of an identity that signaled a youthful masculinity and pride in belonging to Pachuco culture that embraced style and swagger. Statements that challenged discriminatory Juan Crow laws and practices that often limited the rights of Mexican American men. Pachuco culture refers to Mexican American young street gang subculture. Before this style arrived in California, it was actually a very popular trend amongst black men in Harlem, made popular by performers like Cab Calloway and Lionel Hampton. This style spread to Italian American men and Jewish American men as well. When it hit the West Coast, it was adopted by Mexican Americans, Japanese Americans, and Filipino Americans. Over time, the Zoot suit became affiliated with crime and delinquency. Hello, stereotyping and racial profiling. Due to this, the strong Mexican community in Los Angeles began to form gangs for territorial control and protection. This just added more fuel to the fire for prejudice and discrimination. Now, skipping ahead a little bit of time, racial tension was starting to grow between whites and Mexican and the Mexican population. Brawls between the two groups were happening much more often, mostly by sailors assuming that the Zoot Suiters were draft dodgers. Now on to the actual riot itself. The riot was incepted on May 31st, 1943, which is actually very close to when this episode is launching.
Ooh.
So, yeah. This episode launches on May 19th, so just 2 weeks away.
Hopefully there's no riots this year. Although we've had similar things in recent years, so yeah.
I'm actually gonna talk about that a little later. Well, when this happened, a brawl between sailors and a group of Mexican teenagers left a sailor, second class Joe Dacey Coleman, with a broken jaw. When news spread to the Naval Reserve, 50 sailors formed a vigilante group, and on June 3rd, they took to the streets. They targeted any Mexican American wearing a Zoot suit and viciously beat them and tore off their clothing. The LAPD stood by and just let it happen, since the white assailants claimed self-defense. The victimized Mexican Americans were arrested after their beatings for disturbing the peace. Some bystanders pleaded with the police to intervene, but they refused, explaining that this was a matter for the military police, not them. These attacks continued for the following 2 days and started to get even more extreme. Sailors broadened their targets to any Mexican American, regardless if they wore a Zoot suit or not. Local and national newspapers praised the attackers, calling them protectors of the city, and they were cleaning up crime. Finally, after 5 days, on June 8th, the riots subsided when military officials declared LA off limits to soldiers, sailors, and Marines. In the end, more than 600 Mexican Americans were arrested, a significant amount more than servicemen or other civilians arrested. The mainstream media tried to blame the Mexican American population, that it was their lawlessness and juvenile delinquency. Others tried to spin it as a communist plot to divide America with racial tension. For decades, blame was continuously pointed at one group after another. And it wasn't until last year, May 16th, 2023, that the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors officially condemned the Zoot Suit riots. And as I was reading all this, I could not help but think of the parallels with the Black Lives Matter movement. It's kind of crazy how history was just repeating itself.
And how with the Black Lives Matter, people are so quick to say, oh, they're looters, they're stealing stuff, they're committing crimes when they're protesting. And it's like...
Yeah, they were peaceful protests until they were disturbed by law enforcement or other people that did not agree with what they were protesting.
Yeah, it's so easy to make the situation fit a mold where there aren't racist or bad people in the world. But in reality, the protesters weren't looting, they weren't stealing stuff, they weren't criminals. They
No.
were protesting a real life issue where their lives are often challenged or in danger. So yeah, I thought that was fascinating. That 70 years, 80 years almost, hasn't really changed all that much.
Well, that's what I had on Zoot Suits and the Zoot Suit Riots. And I did love that song. That was
I,
a hot bop in '97.
I loved it too. I had no idea there were actual riots it was named after. I
I
thought it
had
was a
no
cool
idea
suit.
either.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't
I was like,
know.
okay, Zoot Suit Riots, whatever.
Yeah.
And it is kind of funny, like '90s style. Every time like I watch like an early '90s show, I see like the big suits and everything. It's
Mhm.
kind of like a play on a Zoot suit, like that huge, like bulky suit, wide legs, big shoulders, and everything like that.
They definitely trimmed down quite a bit. I have to think of Daria, where her friend, what's her friend's name, Jane,
Jane.
is dating a guy who's really into like 40s 50 culture, and so like he only wears like zoot suits, and, and she's like doesn't want to dress up with him. She's like, I think I'm just gonna put on sweatpants. He's like, you own sweatpants, and she's like, I think we're done here.
God, I love Daria.
That was such a great show. I think we're done here. But yeah, and I liked hearing, or I didn't like hearing, I found it really fascinating that the newspapers were like in on it too, kind of almost prodding the flames, saying, oh, it's because the Mexicans are committing all this crime and they get what they deserve.
Yeah,
But it was all garbage.
it's mainstream media just painting the picture poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll cut this part out because I'll just but like it's funny how like I'm actually doing a presentation on MSG in a
Mhm.
couple weeks
Yeah.
and how the mainstream media actually like completely twisted it up and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, yeah, there was a lot of poor research out there, but it was the mainstream media that followed that lead rather than looking at the data that suggested that MSG is fine. They
Yeah.
only focus, like they have such power to control like the way that people think.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that they're not held more accountable.
And they're like, this is an easy sell. People will buy this up because they don't think they're in danger. We don't care what harm this is going to cause.
Yeah,
It's it's problematic.
it is. Yeah. But that's all I got.
All you
Yep.
got. I think that's all I had on Zoot Suits too. Fascinating topic, especially after we were just talking
Yeah.
about the Tulsa riots as well, right?
Yeah, like that was man, like I cannot believe that like the Tulsa one was even more violent because they actually murdered people
It's like the
in the
only
zoo. Like
bombing of U.S. soil that whites actually bombed blacks. They dropped bombs from big planes, right? It's the only bombing on
yeah,
U.S. soil that's ever happened, and we did it
they
ourselves.
decimated that community and they're trying to pull it off as like Tulsa is actually thriving now and they're trying to take credit for like, well, they wouldn't have thrived if the whites didn't do that. So they should be thanking us. Like, fuck off,
It wouldn't be
dude.
thriving. It could be bigger than New York City for all you know.
Yeah.
It's stupid shit. Oh man.
Like I can't.
I can't.
I can't.
Okay, so Raj says they could just walk around and see what's what. And Sheldon says that's a semantically null sentence. Raj brings up that there's a mingler for grad students and faculty. Sheldon's not interested. Raj says, well, you should go outside. Outside is good. And Sheldon says something that gives him a point for me. Sheldon asks, if that were true, if outside were actually good, why has man spent so long perfecting the inside?
I love that line. It makes so much sense.
Right? Why are we bothering going out into the woods to go camping when we could just stay inside?
I do not like camping. I'm sorry. I know you love it. It's like right up your alley and everything. I'm more of the type that likes to get dirty, like on a hiking trip all day, and then go home and shower and sleep in my own bed.
I like brief stints of hiking where I have my necessities in my car nearby. And if needed, I can always get in my car because my car is an inside environment.
Yeah.
And it can also get me back home pretty quickly. So
Yes. Home is good. I
home is
like
good.
home.
Sheldon recommends going to Flatland where they are all shapes. And I had to look this up, making this IQ.4 because I had no idea what Flatland was. Did you?
I did.
You knew what it was?
Well, I just took. Oh no, I didn't know what it was, but I looked into it.
Okay, I was gonna say, wow, and I'm an English teacher.
Flatland, hello.
So I
do you want? Yeah, you could take. I just took Zoot suits.
Okay,
So do you want to take this one?
I don't have a whole lot, so you might have more than me. But I took this from Wikipedia. That technically the whole title is Flatland: A Romance of Many Dimensions, and it's a satire by Edwin Abbott. And later on, one of the characters is going to say that it's actually a representation of Victorian culture, and that's absolutely true. That this was published in 1884 by Seeley and Co. And apparently it's about a fictional two-dimensional world commenting on the hierarchy of the culture and basically saying that the upper class gets to dictate everything, what's wrong and what's right. Apparently there's a sequel called Sphereland, but I don't know how much of a sequel it can be because it was written in 1957 by a different author named Dionyse Berger. Is that right? That's what I had from Wikipedia. There's been movie adaptations, including a 2007 version, which I also had never heard of. The story itself, I find interesting, is about two-dimensional characters and the lives they lead. They're actually shapes, but it's leading up to the turn of the century of 1999. So what we lived through at the Y2K. One square dreams of visiting a place called Lineland, a one-dimensional world. Again, this kind of meta, so it's a story in a story, or him dreaming of a story, like Sheldon's dreaming of being in a two-dimensional story. And again, it aims to point out contrasts and problems with social levels and the idea of trying shapes saying that they're perfect and everybody should be like them, and the division between classes. Again, I had never heard of this or read it, but I did purchase it and I plan on reading it pretty soon so I can try to get some feedback back to everyone.
That'd be awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
It's horrible. Don't read
it. Is it pretty long? Is it a long book?
Not long at all. It's technically a novella. So
it's a novella.
Yeah, the audiobook's only 4 hours. I think the page count's like 200 and something pages, so not very long.
Okay.
Do you get anything different with it?
No, I basically got the same information, but I did find some information on its relevancy to why Sheldon even knows about it.
Oh,
and everything like that.
I was wondering because it seems far from
it doesn't
Sheldon.
It doesn't seem in general something that he would be interested in.
Yeah.
But the book was discovered again after, like, because it was written in the 1800s and it was just kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
It wasn't very popular. It was Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity that kind of brought it back, because the book goes into the concepts of the fourth dimension. So Flatland was actually mentioned in a letter by William Garnett entitled Euclid, Newton, and Einstein, published in Nature on February 12th, 1920. So it was a letter written about this, that Abbott is depicted in a sense as a prophet due to his intuition of the importance of time to explain certain phenomena, which is time is the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
So that's where all these scientists were like, wow, he's like a prophet. He kind of called it. He just kind of had this fun story talking about like time, all these different dimensions and everything. And it basically fell into the theory of relativity.
It's like he's trying to comment on how stupid classism is, and they're like, you realize you just discovered relativity here. Like,
Yeah.
what? I don't know. I'm writing a fucking
It's like,
book. That's awesome. I hear about that quite a bit
yeah.
where authors will write something and like it's completely fictional and then like, you know, reality
It's kind
kind
of
of
like
mimics it,
like
right?
it's like Star Trek. They basically created tablets.
Yeah, exactly. And transporters. Dun dun dun.
Beam, yeah, beam me up, Scotty.
Ryan, those don't exist yet. Yet.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm curious about this, and if I find anything Einsteinian, I'll doubly note it. So
Yep. Let us know how you like it.
so Raj begs to go to the mixer. Sheldon says there's a Flatland mixer and tells him to say he's a circle. Flatland girls are all about the circles, apparently.
They're
So
hot for
they're
circles.
hot for the circles. I'm really, like, I don't even understand. I'm curious how this book describes them. Like, if you're in a two-dimensional world, how can you, like, unless you're above or from the sun, like, everything would look like a line. How do you know it's a circle or not?
You'll have to let me know.
Right? I'm so curious. Okay, so we're in the car, and Bernadette mentions that she spends her day watching flesh-eating bacteria eat rodents all day. And this, I was going to say this was a failed IQ point, but then I started reading more, and I'm not sure. I'll let you decide. Did you do anything on flesh-eating bacteria?
I did not.
Did not. Okay. Because I personally, like, if I was going out to eat with somebody who's like, I've been playing with flesh-eating bacteria all day, I'd probably have a little bit of an issue eating dinner with them. And so I was
Yeah.
curious, like, what she would have to go through to be sanitized, but I couldn't really find anything on that. And so I'm guessing there is protocol, but it's probably the protocol they have on any infectious disease. So, yeah, I couldn't find anything specifically on flesh-eating bacteria, but I was like, I don't know if she could actually get into the lab, do her stuff, and get out safely in time for dinner. And it seems like they're doing an early dinner because Sheldon and Raj are going to the mixer that hadn't started yet. But then I was like, you know what? If the mice have already been treated, that doesn't sound right.
Part like prepped.
Poisoned with the flesh-eating bacteria. Maybe she's just watching like on a video camera. So yeah, that started to make sense. But what I found out that apparently there are studies with mice going on, several studies with flesh-eating bacteria. And according to Life Science, I found scientists do study flesh-eating bacteria, but they don't know exactly how it works. And I found what it said. It has something to do with a mix of proteases, hemolysins, collageneses, toxins, proteins, and the bodies of the host themselves. So basically, chemicals, enzymes, acids, toxins, getting produced to cause damage. Like, it's not necessarily like the bacteria is eating us. It's that they're producing something that's killing off our tissue. And then also our bodies release, our immune systems release antibodies that can technically do more damage because they over-release stuff. And so what I found was that, according to medicalnewstoday.com in a 2018 article, they found that in mice, what they were testing specifically on mice was that immune system blockers and nerve blockers can actually stop or hinder or halt the spread of flesh-eating bacteria and the damage it does. So they can kind of localize it and treat it at the site. And that means basically one of the suggestions was injecting botulism into the body can the same stuff that you put in for wrinkles, or that if you eat it can like cause like asphyxiation because you can't move or breathe. Apparently it can be used to stop the spread and immune system from overreacting to flesh-eating bacteria. And the other thing I have on this is that climate change, like technically it's a pretty rare disease, but climate change is boosting these organisms in coastal waters because with the heating of the planet, the water is getting slightly warmer to a point where this bacteria just loves it and grows rampantly. So we might be seeing more of this in years to come, which is terrifying because I still don't really understand how or why it does what it does.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's like horrifying.
Right? And they usually
Yeah, I
treat it by
remember
like
like
cutting off
yeah.
appendages. So
Oh god. I remember hearing about like flesh-eating bacteria as like a child and like just being like scared of it. Like, oh my god, it's gonna get us.
right. Like I was watching a news story about a woman who like fell down at a playground and then lost like all her limbs. I'm like, that's really something that can happen at a playground? Like you fall and then you just cut everything off. My parents like, it doesn't happen often, but yes, Ryan. Like, what the
Oh.
fuck? This is why we go inside. Inside is perfect.
Inside.
It's
Sheldon knows what's up.
exactly. All right, so if you want to count that as an IQ point or not, I don't care. I got the information out there. So I'm just happy you didn't stop me with the sex doll.
Oh, I stopped recording a while ago.
I'm just letting you talk, Ryan. Keep going.
You obviously need to get this out of your system.
I'm saving this for any court cases.
Yeah.
Ryan's being charged with taking three-dimensional headshots.
And he thought he was in Flatland,
I
though.
thought I was in Flatland. How do you take 3D shots in Flatland? Wow.
Full circle.
Full
A two-dimensional
circle.
circle.
And circles are hot.
Oh, hot and bothered right now.
Okay, so Howard says he's still willing to kiss her even though she's been watching flesh-eating bacteria and mice. What does that say? And Penny says that he's willing to die for the chance of getting to second base, which brings up the whole discussion of bases, an ongoing joke through the episode, which I found hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the typical understanding of bases, I think when I was a kid it was something else, but first base is kissing, second base is filling up above the belt, third base is hand stuff below the belt, and a home run is actual sexual intercourse. It's the
Yep.
it's the yay.
Gee golly,
Gee,
yay!
God. He's sliding into first.
Yeah, that's how I've always known it as that too.
Okay, cool. Because apparently Bernadette has a different notion of bases, and she claims that they've gone way past second base, but it later comes up that the bases don't make any sense. And then they ask about Penny's job, and she says she thinks things are turning around because she's been to a psychic who said she'll get a national spot if she cuts her hair. And Leonard starts laughing, even though he said he wouldn't laugh. And oh, you gonna say something?
Oh no, I was gonna say I love Howard's reaction, how like sincere he was. Like it was just like, good job not making fun of her.
I made a star
Like,
on
it's
that.
it's very rare that Howard can read the room so well, and I
Yeah.
just love when he does like, dude.
For Howard to be the decent person here is like what, and
Yeah.
even Penny even says that later, like you were the odd one on a double date with Howard.
Howard, yeah.
So that was great. I loved his character there. And then he goes, "You two keep chatting. We'll be making out." And Bernadette says she's sliding into third. And I don't know, just putting her hand on his shirt. Sliding into third. Okay, whatever. So we're at the mixer at school. Raj has given his limited edition Green Lantern charging lantern to Sheldon so that Sheldon would go with him. But Sheldon has also brought it in. They go to get drinks and... Oh yeah?
I did a little bit of research on this.
Go for it.
Well, for it to be like this bartering chip, it must be valuable. So I wanted to look at the value of the limited edition Green Lantern because I love. If you've listened to all of our episodes, Ryan and I love to put values on things. We like to see how much things are actually worth.
Like life itself.
Yeah. Well, I looked high and low, and this was I thought it was going to be a little bit easier to find, but it was really hard to find. But it might have been because this is back in 2010, so all
Yeah.
of these props are probably sold and gone and everything like that. So I tried looking up the what's called the limited edition Green lantern, but like they have so many different types of limited editions. It's like, well, which one is it?
It's like the Watchmen DVDs. Is it the special edition, the limited edition, the deluxe edition?
Yeah. Well, on eBay, I found one as a prop replica, and it was going for $500. And then I saw another one going for $750, but it looked nothing like the one on the show.
Oh.
So I was having a hard time finding the actual lantern that he was holding up with the ring that actually like lit up and everything. And oddly enough, I found on Amazon a Green lantern, but it wasn't the right one. But somebody actually commented because on Amazon you could actually ask questions and people will answer.
Yeah.
Somebody actually asked, like, "Hey, is this the one in the Big Bang Theory episode?" And somebody actually answered, "Well, no, it isn't."
Oh.
But the lantern that Sheldon has in the episode is the Justice League of America Trophy Room Green Lantern prop, which apparently is very, very limited edition, and typically goes for $900. So yeah,
it's a pricey lantern.
Raj must have been very desperate to have a wingman.
Yeah. Well, it works out, so for what it's worth.
Honestly, I'd say worth it at that point.
Yeah. So yeah, he's brought it in, and he does touch it and shows that it's real, and when he touches his ring to it, it lights up. Raj says he wants a drink and says he's going to be his wingman. Sheldon's going to be his wingman. And Sheldon asks for a root beer float. Raj says that they don't have ice cream, and I get another point for being like Sheldon here, because I agree. I don't believe that it should be called a party unless there's ice cream, or at least dessert. I love dessert. I love ice cream, and Sheldon disagrees. It's a party when...
So if you go to a house party, it's not a party unless they have dessert.
It's not a true party.
You can't call this a house party.
It's not. I mean, even when you go to like a kindergartner's birthday, there's ice cream. There's get some ice cream, okay? You really want things to hit off. It's not about the booze. Yeah. It's about the 31 flavors, Baskin Robbins style.
Shout out! Do you have a Costco membership?
Yeah.
Do you ever get the Kirkland brand vanilla ice cream?
Yes.
It is my new favorite ice cream, like by far.
Not like, sure I'd go that
so
far.
So good,
but
I think it's better than like Haagen-Dazs. Haagen-Dazs is a little too light. It doesn't have nearly as much flavor. Like the intensity of vanilla, the thickness, the creaminess, the richness, like that vanilla ice cream is amazing.
I would say it's the best vanilla out there.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Okay. I got a little overzealous right there because Ben and Jerry's flavors are pretty amazing.
They got some good ones.
Netflix and chilled.
But if you ever need vanilla ice cream, that's the way you go.
Yeah. That is. Oh my god.
Need something on top of my pumpkin pie or like apple pie a la mode. Like, oh yeah, that's what.
Or just a scoop by itself. It's like so rich and intense and like so sweet. It's
rub
like
on your body and.
You know, I rub on my artificial woman.
Yeah,
I have to clean myself.
I have to drag her into the tub afterwards, but it's so worth it. I get vanilla everywhere.
Oh my god, are we gonna get canceled? We are losing so many subscribers on this episode.
Wow. It wasn't us. Big Bang made us do it.
It's their fault. Fuck you, Chuck Lorre.
She knew it the whole time. Okay. Anything more about ice cream?
I'm good.
Good. I'm good. We're canceled already. It doesn't matter. Oh, so Raj says to check out or look out for females, and Sheldon points out an 80-year-old female. And
Well,
thinking,
I actually sorry.
yeah, go for it.
I actually do have so I had a big issue with like Raj in this moment. Like I think Howard has influenced you a little too much. And I really like I always found it weird when guys say let's check out females. Let's look at the females. What's the female situation? And it always sounded kind of douchey.
Yeah.
And I always knew it was kind of douchey, but I didn't really know why. So I did a little bit of research on that.
What makes it douchey?
Because yeah, like why is call like so in a nutshell, guys, don't call women females. Don't address them as females, don't call them females. Because it reduces women down to only their ability to reproduce. And I actually found there's actually a ton of articles about this, about how you should not do this. Female has a very singular definition that fails to capture the complexity, value, and intersectionality of women. And it kind of pulled a chord with me was because I used to have a good friend in my single days long ago in my mid 20s. I had a friend, and he was the guy that I told you that was super into like the things that Howard's in, the pickup artists and
Oh, the
stuff like that.
puas and stuff.
He was the one that introduced me to it, and he was like a really good friend. I'll scratch this part out, but I'll just tell you. So it's like, so I need to hang out with him, and we got along really well in the beginning, but then like I just noticed all these like douchey things about him, and he kept calling women females, and it just kind of like was kind of weird. I was like, why are you calling them that? Like that sounds a little weird. Like why are you saying that? And he had the audacity to like freak out at me like, biologically we're males, they're females, what's your problem? And he actually got in my face like I was the asshole. And I was like, dude, what's your problem? I'm just trying to tell you, like it just doesn't sit well with me, and it sounds kind of weird.
It seems kind of like a microaggression, like saying girls. When you say girls, you're childizing, right? If they're adult, they're a woman, and you're saying, oh, these you girls are doing okay, and like you're demeaning them. So it's kind of like that, where it's got this really specific scientific definition, and like you said, reducing it to just a breeding type element.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I wanted to call this out, because obviously he's listening, and fuck you. You were wrong.
Take that. In that cartoon I was talking about earlier that I was watching that mentioned, he like basically calls everybody out by name, like in his life story. It's like, yeah, I called you out by name, Calvin. What are you going to do about it? And that means you're going to be listening to my cartoon, and I'm okay with that. So, on the flip side of this, I could kind of see it because Sheldon is so particular with wording that Raj, I think it's Raj being kind of douchey, but at the same time, if Raj did not make it as scientifically clearly stated as possible, Sheldon would probably have an issue with it, more of an issue than he already does. So just one way to think. I'm not completely convinced, but it was something I was thinking about while watching it too, that he's saying this kind of in a weird way, but I think it's partially Howard too. Howard's influence.
I think it's Howard's influence. But yeah, just wanted to get that out of my system.
Now it's free.
Don't call women females, or women. Anybody out there, do you like being called a female?
I prefer female.
Yeah.
I prefer a mix between female and girl. You can call me Furl. Like, what? It's the worst of both worlds. I love it.
Yeah, because I mean, how do you how would someone call us a male? Like, oh, males. Ugh. I guess I'm not terribly offended by that, but then again, as a guy, I get offended a lot less often.
That's true. We have a lot fewer reasons to get offended. So,
yeah,
but
because we are not a marginalized group.
Yeah,
that's why.
like it doesn't bother me, but it also, like you said, the scientific notion of it makes me think of like sci-fi movies where like I'm okay. My mind goes to, and I don't even know if they say it, but I think of the Futurama where they're like the males will be chained to the wall and forced with snoo snoo. Right?
Death by snoo
Death by
snoo.
snoo snoo.
Yes.
So that's kind of why I'm thinking males. They're not identified as humans or living organisms, but breeding mechanisms scientifically almost. Snoo
I
snooers.
I'm okay with that.
And again, we don't have as big of a reason to complain, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, women have been the brunt of many more aggressions than we have. So
Yeah, that's very true.
snoo snoo. Okay, so Raj says the game is to hook up. It's not just to spot women. And Raj explains that Sheldon's task as a wingman is to basically just nod when he lies to women to help him get lucky, right? And a girl comes up, Abby, guest star, and she starts off by complimenting Sheldon's cool lantern. She doesn't know what it is, but she thinks it's cool. And the guest star is Danica McKiller. You want to talk about her?
Winnie from the Wonder
Winnie,
Years.
you mentioned she was going to come in at some point, so I've been looking
Yep,
for
they
her.
met. Yep, they actually met. It's actually a callback from the Bat Jar Conjecture in season 1. While seeking teammates for the Science Bowl, Raj actually suggests the girl from Wonder Years,
Yes.
referring to McKellar as she has a math degree.
That's so
Um, I looked at her IMDb to see what else that she has been in. She actually does have a long resume. She's actually done a ton of voice acting. She's done a lot of video games, TV shows, and movies. She does a voice actually for Flatland in Spearland.
I noticed she does a lot of like romance movies, especially Xmas movies. So I might.
A lot of Hallmark movies, yeah.
I love Hallmark Christmas movies. That's sort of like they're not the greatest thing in the world, and I know I'm not
But
expecting like masterpieces, but they're
I
fun.
love them too.
Right?
In a dark world, it is a shining light of hope, and they're just kind of fun, and like they're feel good.
They're feel good.
At the very end, you're just happy.
And if I'm doing something, I miss part of it, I can get back in. I know what's going on, and I know how it's going
Yeah.
to end, and I'm not going to be surprised
Yeah.
with like, what the fuck? They all died from flesh-eating bacteria? Why? Merry Christmas.
Well, Danica McKellar has also studied at the University of California, where she got a bachelor's of science degree, and she was also summa cum laude in math. And she has published 10 books on math. So she is quite smart.
She's very intelligent. I used to think that I wasn't a fan of hers, but I came to realize that I don't think I liked Winnie in the Wonder Years. And I was typecasting her that I thought all of her roles were like Winnie. But they definitely aren't. And so when I see her in more stuff, I love seeing her in more stuff because I can see what she's capable of. And partially, I didn't like the Wonder Years. I also thought that, was it Fred Savage?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, it was Fred.
Fred
Ben, his
was
brother, was in
Boys
Boy
Meets
Meets
World.
World.
I didn't like
Yeah.
Fred Savage either. I thought he was kind of a little cocky jerk. And then I see him in all sorts of stuff these days, and I'm like, he's great. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
But growing up, I just I think the coolest person was the sister who was the hippie, just kind of disappeared because I don't know what happened to her character.
Yeah.
I have my issues with Wonder Years. There were a lot of great like character or actors in Wonder Years, like when they were kids. So it has its pluses. I don't know.
It was a product of its time.
Yeah,
Let's go with that.
I'll agree with that. And I can say the same thing with Fred Savage, and because he was in Little Monsters and The Wizard. Did you ever see The Wizard?
I haven't.
Where he has to get like, I think it's his brother, his autistic brother, to California to play in a video game championship where he plays Super Mario Brothers 3.
Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did see that.
And so like I always see like yeah, Fred Savage as a kid like as kind of like this know-it-all like I don't know, just I was not a fan of him, but I like his stuff now, so um yeah, for what that's worth.
Yeah.
um so yeah, guest star Sheldon says his friend is looking for someone to copulate with, and for some reason Abby just laughs and says that's funny. And Raj starts to flirt with her, says that she says she knows about India, she's seen Slumdog Millionaire, and he says, well, he's a Slumdog astrophysicist. And Sheldon says that his dad is actually a gynecologist, so he's not a slumdog. And then Raj gives him a look like, you're my wingman, you're supposed to just nod. And so he smiles, apologizes, and nods in agreement. Abby calls Martha over, and we have a second guest star, Jen Drohan. And she looked a little bit familiar, but from looking through stuff, I wasn't completely familiar with anything she's done.
Me either. It seems like she just does a lot of small roles.
Yeah.
Like roles like receptionist, waitress, jogger, mom.
That's what she was in one of the American Horror Stories as mother, a mother. I'm like, so I know I've seen her before, but it wasn't clicking.
Well, fun fact about these two characters.
Yeah.
They're named Abby and Martha. And that is actually a tribute to characters from Joseph Kesselring's Arsenic and Old Lace. Abby and Martha are the names of the homicidal spinster aunts.
Oh. Ta-da. How'd you come up with that?
I found it online. I used the Google.
I thought you were going to be like, that's what I read, Ryan.
I don't read Flatland. I read Arsenic and Old Lace over and over again.
Over and over. It's my Hallmark movie in literary form.
I do the audiobook. I even do it in Braille.
I read it backwards just to get a new way to understand it.
Backwards and upside down.
Upside down. It's the only way to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I googled it.
I go fair. That's just one that like it seems like you would have to. Their names must have clicked or something because I didn't even think of googling their names.
I found it online when I was looking into the episode.
That's cool though. All right, so
but I do want to say like it bums me out that they didn't keep Martha around more. Like I don't get it. Like why didn't they keep her around? She is an ideal candidate for Sheldon.
Right? And he's just not picking up on it, but she is.
Yeah. She's intelligent. She's insightful. She's obviously into comics because she knew that it was the limited edition Green Lantern.
Yeah, she swoons over it. She's like, wow.
Yeah, she knows what Flatland is and everything like that. It's like, Sheldon, come on. Like, not even in a romantic aspect, you'd think that he would, because of all the commonalities that they have, that he wouldn't mind introducing her into the group or something like that, just as a friend or something like that. But she was just a throwaway character, which bums me out
because she had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ruined it for me. I thought she was coming back.
I thought you said you were on her IMDb. Did you not see that? It said one episode.
Touche.
Sneaky.
So we are back at the restaurant, and Howard brings up Leonard thinking people who believe in psychics are idiots. That's a great conversation to have. Maybe they should continue it. And Penny says, no, we've covered that enough in the car. And Leonard says that he claims facts are facts, but Penny's kind of debating, he doesn't know what, sometimes, oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's, anything he doesn't understand, he's saying is not a fact. And that's not fair exactly. And she goes, would you like to try my fish? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, well, fact is you can't, right? So, she's mad that, he's saying that only facts are true. And Leonard asks for help, but Howard and Bernadette basically say, no, thank you. And then the waiter comes up and asks how things are going, and Bernadette says, really uncomfortable, or how are things? And we had another guest star. His name is David Trice as the waiter, and I actually did recognize his face and voice, but I'm not sure when I saw him. But he's been in things as Mom. He was in Parks and Rec. He was in Weeds. My Name is Earl, Gilmore Girls, Malcolm in the Middle, and apparently he was even. And I just watched the documentary on HBO about Nickelodeon specials and how all the kids were basically traumatized for life. So this waiter was on the Amanda Show, and his character was called Man Covered in Bubbles. So for what that's worth, I don't know what to make of that. But he's
Traumatized.
yeah, but he's been in a lot of stuff, like one episode's here and there stuff. So I wasn't surprised I recognized his face. It's just I couldn't put a name or anything more to him. All right, so we're back at the apartment, and Penny is leading the way. Leonard's kind of tagging behind, and she closes the door in his face. And he's trying to say that the great thing about being a couple is that even when you're fighting, it gets to it, that you can still basically have sex during a fight. She's not having it, and she goes, or he goes, do you want your fish? And she opens up the door, grabs it, and ignores him and slams the door back in his face. He turns around and walks into his apartment, where Sheldon and Raj are jamming to Rock Band with Abby and Martha, which they seem like they're having a really great time. He goes, what happened? Sheldon says they scored, and he's the wingman. I love the way he looks. He plays like great scene for Sheldon. So the next day, we are at the lab, and Leonard is burning shit with a laser beam. And Howard comes in and says he made it to 8th base. And Leonard says, what's 8th? He's basically like 7 with the shirt off. My shirt, or his shirt. So we have no idea what Bernadette's bases are, but 7th and 8th are, and she already said sliding into 3rd was her putting a hand down his shirt. So I don't know what the additional 4 or 5 bases are between, but I find them amusing. Howard says he once dated a girl, or they start talking about if it's okay for Leonard to, or how can he date a woman that believes something he totally disagrees with. And Howard says that he once dated a girl who believed that she was abducted by aliens. And it didn't bother him because that meant she was gullible and open to a little probing. That made me laugh. But it also made me go into a small IQ point because I had heard something about this, and I'm not saying she was like it, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit, that alien abductions, I found this on psychologytoday.com. I found it in other places too, but this was most succinct, that there's basically 3 potential explanations for alien abductions, or explanations for the memories or thoughts or of the encounters. I mean, I guess 4 if they actually did happen. But there's some research suggesting that the memories of being abducted by aliens could be a false or recovered memory, basically an implanted thought, especially during hypnosis. I have my issues with believing in hypnosis completely on how well it works. But if you haven't heard, there was a whole thing called the Satanic Panic, where hypnosis was being used to dig memories out of patients who were then relaying memories of being like almost sacrificed to satanic cults and being horribly molested by these satanic cults, of things that were proven never to have actually happened. But it was clear that the hypnosis procedure was kind of leading them into forming that memory. And if you know anything about the human mind, it's really actually easy to trick the human mind into remembering something that didn't happen, a false memory, if you will. So that's potential. It could also be because individuals are having difficulties separating dreams from reality. And it gives 2 key issues for this: people who experience sleep paralysis and people with narcolepsy, where the border between awake and sleep is just not as strong as it should be. But it also, this article mentions that even for people who don't suffer sleep paralysis or narcolepsy, they often are still challenged to tell the difference between what happened in a dream or what happened in real life. That if it happened in a dream, it can still form like a memory, and then they think it actually happened, especially days, weeks, or months after, and say, well, didn't that happen? Oh no, I just dreamt that. And not saying like it was crazy stuff, but potentially you remember like strange things that you thought you were being probed, I guess, for lack of a better word. But the third thing was what I remember. A student once wrote this in a paper, and I always remembered it, that there is a connection between basically sexual masochism and people saying that they were abducted by aliens. And this comes Psychology Today quoted Newman and Baumeister. And the quote says, in their view, escape from self-awareness is one of the self-defining elements of masochistic activities, such as being bound, humiliated, or subjected to pain. In their words, masochism is a particularly effective means to deconstruct meaning and escape the self. It temporarily undermines key aspects of the self. It is an escape from everyday life and the ongoing pressures of modern selfhood. What masochists fantasize about and desire sexually holds a lot of parallels to the activities that abductees describe. As Newman and Baumeister argue, the main features of masochism, both actual activities and fantasies, are pain, loss of self-control, and humiliation. Loss of control and humiliation. All three of these themes dominate UFO abduction accounts. And so when he says that she was into probing, like, I don't know if that's necessarily an hyperbole or an exaggeration. Like, there is some evidence that there's some masochistic tendencies for some of the people who are believe in aliens or believe they were abducted by aliens.
Well, that took a dark turn.
We started with sex dolls. What are you expecting, Rob?
Well, it's just like you're kind of basically saying like people are using alien abductions as a coping mechanism for some sexual trauma.
That comes up too, although some of it might be sexual trauma, some of it might be sexual gratification, that they enjoy it in some way, and it's like living a sexual fetish or fantasy potentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's happier then.
So yeah, not everybody who gets tied up hates being tied up, or handcuffs can be a good thing. I don't know. For what it's worth. Anyways, so yeah, I thought it was interesting that when he said open to probing, like at first I thought that was kind of insulting to her, but you know what? There's well, I like that episode where we talked about everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power, and I somewhat agree with that. Even aliens.
Yeah, or spears and circles.
Circles. Spears, circles are so hot.
Oh,
I'd do them. Would you do them?
No. I do me.
Do me. All right, so Leonard doesn't know what to do. He can fake like he doesn't have an issue. Howard says, well, Penny probably fakes a lot for you, Leonard, and indicating probably her orgasms, but he kind of scuffs Howard off. Howard gives a Venn diagram saying your ideal mate rests in between these two big circles, somewhere here, and he's kind of pointing out that she unlikely exists, and if she does, she's probably like in a bunker doing lab experiments in China, so probably never going to find her, so, don't expect perfection. It's not going to happen, which I thought was really wise of Howard. And Leonard makes it clear that he can't give up what he believes in. And Howard says, I respect that. And then dots his hand. And Leonard goes, what's that? He goes, it's your new girlfriend. Have fun tonight. And I just thought it was great that Howard is actually giving some very
wise one.
Yeah, the wise one for once. All right, so
I feel like, well, this is very on par with his character, was that when he was single, he was overcompensating. Like, he actually is this good person, and he's very wise, he's intelligent, he's thoughtful, and everything like that. But when he was single, he was just kind of succumbing to his animalistic behaviors.
Dude, he was getting
So now that,
desperate.
yeah, he, like, desperation kind of changes your personality.
Mhm.
But now that he actually has a girlfriend, he's calming down a little bit more, and he's actually showing his true self.
Yeah. He's
So it's
finally
kind of
getting to
like the
seventh and eighth
first,
base.
yeah, he's and this is kind of like what I said at the beginning of our podcast, was like, Howard is kind of rough in the first couple seasons.
Mhm.
He is actually a very unlikable character, and he is one of the reasons why a lot of people really shit on The Big Bang Theory as a TV show, because he's such a poor character. He's he shows himself as like being a little sexist, a little bit like toxic masculinity and stuff like that. But now that he's like calming down, we're actually seeing the good parts of him, and this is an illustration of it.
That reminds me that, again, I've been watching The Office, and that I didn't like Steve Carell's character, right? And I'm just got through the episodes where he's in the deposition, speaking out because his girlfriend is suing the Dunder Mifflin, right? And
Yeah.
he screws everything up, and he has maxi pads underneath his armpits because he's sweating so much. And at the end of it, like, his girlfriend has brought his diary and makes copies so everybody can read his diary. And they're like, wait, what about this this woman named Ryan? And they're like, let's not talk about Ryan. So,
and then Toby's in the background laughing because he actually knows what's going on.
Yeah, he's like, could you make a copy for me? And then at the end, he ends up siding with the company a little bit, and he's talking to the camera. He's like, you expect your company to screw you over, but Jan had the diary when she came today. And I'm like, that was a really smart...
She knew she had to play it, yeah.
Yeah, he knew what was going on, and he was actually hurt, and he was trying his best, even though I don't know if it was good enough. And then the next episode, they have the dinner party that goes to hell, where...
Best episode ever.
She's like, I sprayed paint into the dog. I just held it down and went to town.
I finally got my plasma TV. I could just stand here all day and just watch.
He whispers, like, I think she's trying to poison me.
That was by far one of my favorite episodes of The Office.
I have to watch it again. I was so busy laughing that I think I missed stuff.
Which is funny because that episode was not well received when it came out.
Really?
People were like bashing it and hated it. But over time, people were finding the appreciation for it, and now it's like one of the best episodes.
I just held that dog down and spray painted it. It kind of reminded me of the episode of It's Always Sunny where Mac and Dennis get a house in the suburbs and they slowly lose touch with reality. In fact, there's like a part where Dennis buys a dog for them, and Mac ends up he's making mac and cheese every single night because he doesn't know how to make anything else. And he's like, Dennis, have you noticed there's no dog around? He's like, where's the dog? You're eating him. It gets so weird so quickly. But anyways, it reminded me that the domestic life is driving them both kind of insane. I held that dog down and spray painted it. Okay, so we are back at the apartment, and Sheldon is learning Finnish while his computer is installing the operating systems. Raj comes in and says that Abby and Martha want to hang out again. Sheldon says he has no interest in doing this, and he has no interest in, even though it was fun, he's done it already, he's not going to redo it. I dislike that so much that I'm giving myself a point not like Sheldon, because if something's fun, I like repeating it. I
Yeah.
love putting a movie on for a second time, a third time. It's
why I've watched Big Bang Theory like 20 times.
exactly. I think it's fun. So I don't agree with his.
Yeah, that's kind of weird because like you'd think that Sheldon would be more consistent because every day of the week it's a certain like, food. Like, oh, it's Monday, it's Thai night. Oh, it's pizza night. It's like he likes that consistency. So if he likes something, he's constantly redoing it. So again, this doesn't make sense that that they didn't introduce Martha as like a main character. They
Somebody that
really
he could
should
relate
have.
to and have expected conclusions from.
Yeah.
Like, if I hang out with her, this is going to happen. Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Yeah. So, he says he's not going to, and there's nothing Raj can do. And suddenly, Raj pulls out his Hulk hands that have been signed by Stan Lee. Sheldon is awe and puts them on and tries to speak Hulk-like. And Raj says he's not allowed to wear the hands on the date. And Sheldon says, Hulk sad.
Well, here's another IQ point that I looked into the value of these hands.
Value of Stan Lee's autograph on Hulk hands.
Well, I'm not sure what the values are in 2010, but in 2024, with Stanley being deceased now, eBay has signed Hulk hands for $899 or your best offer. And then I found a pair that had Stanley and Lou Ferrigno signed at $1,450. And then I came across a website, Sterling Authentics. It had a single hand signed by Stan Lee for $999. So not as it's definitely more than the Green Lantern, but not by much.
About the same as the specific lantern that they're using, right? Didn't you say
Yeah.
that one's like 900? So,
yeah.
But when you get that second signature by, who was it, the first Hulk that you said?
Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, that bumps
The
up
original Hulk. Yeah. It definitely bumps it up. So yeah, I guess it is about about the same. So wow.
Some
Raj is
toys,
just handing
Raj.
out his stuff left and right. He is very horny.
I guess with being single that long, he had a lot of money to drop on toys. I know what that's like.
That's true. Yeah. When you're single and you're not dating, you can actually save a lot of money.
You could, or you could just buy a lot of shit. Which is how I've ended up with. I don't want to talk about it.
Moving on.
Moving on. I don't have a sex doll. You have a sex doll.
I have a Ryan sex doll.
Ryan doll.
That I call Brian.
Brian. This is Brian, Ryan. Say hi, Ryan. Wow. This is a weird episode.
Oh my god. Last episode, we went off the rails so bad with the maternal congruence, and we are even farther down the rabbit hole now. I don't even know how to feel.
We're going to get through this one way or another. Just hold my hand and let's go power through. Alright, so we are in the laundry room. And Leonard comes in, and he's holding a little gift. And I didn't really notice it till later, but he's holding it. And he goes, "Oh, you're cleaning out the lint trap. There's so many fires started every year due to the lint trap. You're really smart to do that." He says it's time for her. He claims that because he gave her that tidbit of wisdom, that it's her turn to turn to him and say, "How I could never stay mad at you," and give him a big kiss and whatnot. And she says it's going to take a lot more than that. He was the most obnoxious person on a date that included Howard. He apologizes for the whole thing and comes to the conclusion that he was wrong for acting that way. And she asks if he would be interested in going to the psychic to see what it's all about. He asks if she'd be interested in reading a book about how psychics are fake. She says no, and he just pitches the book. He's like, fuck it, and throws it away. And he says, okay, I'll go see the psychic. and then says that one of us has to keep an open mind. And she's basically like, "What are you saying? I don't have an open mind?" He's like, "No, never mind." So he keeps trying to pick a fight, but he pulls away. He's knows that
smartest thing that Leonard has ever done.
Yeah,
just pick your battles. This is not it.
This is not it.
I have a couple IQ points.
Oh,
so the first thing, rewinding back a little bit, the statistic that Leonard said. That every year 15,000 fires are caused by accidental dryer lint ignition.
Yeah.
I was curious if that was a accurate statistic. And I found this on nfpa.org. And the answer is yes. This is a very accurate statistic. As of 2017, that statistic is still true. 15,970 home structure fires happen every year. But it does group together washer and dryer in the same category, though 92% of that is due to the dryer. These fires are caused annual averages of 13 civilian deaths, 444 civilian injuries, and $230 million in direct property damage. The leading items first ignited in dryer fires were dust, fiber or lint is 26%, and clothing at 26%, while items first ignited in washing machine fires were part of the appliance itself, including wire or cable insulation at 26%, or appliance housing or casing at 24%, or the drive belt at 11%. So this is our PSA of the episode, that you should definitely clean out the lint in your dryer.
But it sounds like for the washer, that's not the issue. Like the washer could just ignite at any time.
It's faulty wiring.
Yeah, faulty wiring. So
yeah.
Just SOL on
But
that.
the vast majority, if you look at 92% of 15,970, it's in like the 14,000 range.
It's worth cleaning out the lint.
Yeah, just take the time to do it, which I am notoriously bad at. So after this episode, I'm definitely doing it every time.
You know, I try to do it like every load. But I heard that like some of it can get down inside the dryer too, and so they make attachments for your vacuum that you can shove down inside and try to vacuum it out. After 6 years, I did that and got nothing out, so I imagine it's not as big of an issue. But I've apparently I'm obsessive about that because I bought the attachment that people are like, "Why the fuck did you buy that?" Right? I'm like, I have to clean the lint.
It's called safety. Do you even care?
This house, it could all burn.
Yeah, I'll lose everything. And then I'll just have to go live in Flatland.
Flatland. I'm a circle. I am a circle.
Well, that's what I had on the statistic of lint fires.
Nice. Do you have another one?
I do. So with Penny and Leonard's conversation about the beliefs, because she says, "You know, I believe in ghosts, right? And astrology and voodoo." And then he mentions healing crystals, and she's like, "Oh, no. Healing crystals don't work." I had to look into the percentage of people that believe in these things.
I have one on voodoo itself, because I have an issue with what she says.
I think I know what you're going to say.
You go. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Okay. So we'll go in chronological order,
all right.
Because she mentions ghosts, then astrology, and then it goes to voodoo, and then healing crystals. So let's talk psychics in general first, because that's where the whole episode is about. So psychics. Multiple studies have shown that more than 25% of the population believe in psychics, or those with psychic abilities, meaning telepathy or clairvoyance. In fact, a study in the United States showed that 1 out of 3 Americans feel that they have personally experienced a psychic moment. Which is kind of crazy, because with all the exposed frauds out there, that's kind of a shockingly high number. And I looked into this.
Yeah.
Why do people believe in psychics?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
And according to psychologytoday.com, People give in to psychics when discussing their loved ones because they succumb to what psychologists call motivated reasoning. People are inclined to accept beliefs on the basis of personal gains, what they want to believe, rather than on reliable evidence. It's basically wishful thinking. People may also be taken in by other kinds of thinking errors well known to psychologists, such as clustering illusion, bandwagon effects, and confirmation bias. So the acceptance of psychics claims by vulnerable people is better explained by thinking errors than by the truth of psychic claims. So that's what I found on psychics. And now we get to move on to the other phenomena. Ghosts, astrology, healing crystals, voodoo. So, I didn't do a complete deep dive on each category. I just kind of looked into the percentages of believers because that's really all I care about, because like that's what this is about. That Penny's a believer and I almost said Sheldon, and Leonard is not. Well, Sheldon's with Leonard on this, but
probably, yeah. I almost said Howard, so I wonder where Howard stands, because he's kind of religious, so maybe.
Yeah, he's very Jewish.
Yeah. So. That sounds bad, but he is, right? Like he's he's like not.
I couldn't help but notice that sounded weird, almost like calling him a female.
Yeah. Let's delete this episode.
I think we need to redo this entire episode. All right, on to ghosts. I found this on sciencealert.com. In a 2021 poll of 1,000 American adults, 41% said that they believe in ghosts. 20% said they had personally experienced them. So 20% of the American population is 50 million. So that means 50 million people have claimed a spiritual encounter just in the United States alone.
See, what I'm curious are the ones where I stand. I would say I've had encounters, but I don't believe in them.
Then how can you claim that they're an encounter then?
It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. And I accept the world's an illogical place. I may never be able to explain those encounters, but I realize that I can't explain them, and other people would classify them as ghost supernatural.
Okay. Well, now we move on to astrology, which we've already had an IQ point on.
Yeah.
If you're interested in a deep dive on horoscopes, check out our episode 16, which is season 1, episode 16, The Peanut Reaction. We broke down the history of horoscopes. Well, according to Statista.com, a 2022 study shows that 27% of the United States population believes in astrology, while 22% are unsure and 51% say no. So Penny is in the minority on this one.
You know, with the ghosts, I forgot to say, it reminded me of a podcast I was listening to. It was a British podcast where it's kind of like Ghost Hunters, where they go and listen to somebody's tale and try to explain it rationally, and then get somebody who's a believer who tries to stand up for it being an actual spirit thing. But there's one that I remember because the woman who was telling the story basically saw her friend who died like 2 years prior, and she explains the story, and she's like, the thing is, I don't believe in ghosts, and when I think about it, I feel like that is a horrible type of hell, that we die and then just stay in this world forever, walking around, and I cannot believe that that is what happens to us. But she's like, but I saw my dead friend, so I don't know.
Holy shit.
I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to healing crystals. So on voxmagazine.com, an article stated that research by Pew Research Center found that 42% of all United States adults believe that spiritual energy can be located in physical things. And because of this, the crystal industry has become a billion-dollar industry. So healing crystals are being sold left and
You said
right.
42%?
42% of US adults believe that,
Holy shit.
yeah,
I'm in the wrong
basically,
business.
I both of us are. We need to this is obviously a healing soda water.
Yeah. This is a healing shirt. Who wants
Um,
it?
this mouse wards away dragons.
This dog over
Have you
here.
seen?
This dog. Yeah, she can do anything. How much you gonna give me?
Pay me.
Pay me.
And now we go into the voodoo.
Voodoo.
So would you like to take that one?
All right. So I don't. There's a David Sedaris. He is an author who does a lot of memoirs and usually very sarcastic, dry humor. And he has a story where his neighbor says something like, "I don't believe in TV." And his dad goes, "Well, I don't think I believe in TV either." And apparently Sedaris spent his life like, "How can you not believe in TV? TV is TV. What you mean to say is I don't really stand up for the shows being broadcasted. I don't prefer them, but it's not believing or not believing, believing or not believing, that TVs exist. They're physical. You can touch them." I feel the same way about voodoo. Voodoo is a religion. You can't believe or not believe it exists. It's a religion that exists. You can follow the religion, but it's kind of like Catholicism, Christianity. You don't follow the religion, but if you don't believe in Christianity, it's saying you don't believe people actually follow the religion. That doesn't make sense. So I kind of had an issue with that, but I did do a little more research in voodoo. University of Delaware says that voodoo is actually a prized religion. It's comprised of multiple religions from Africa, primarily voodoo, practiced in Benin, and it's been mixed with Catholicism quite a bit. It is creolized religion started in the West Indies of Haiti in the 17th century. The word itself derives from Fon language of, I'm sorry if I'm butchering these words, Dahomey, and means spirit or God, although I found a couple of sites that claimed it could mean moral fiber. It was brought by slaves who mixed it with the Catholicism of and traditions of their owners, who basically said, "Stop practicing your beliefs, you have to practice what I believe." And what we've seen throughout history is if you ever try to kill out a whole religion, it's good, just going to mix in. Like, that's the best you can hope for, which is what we've talked about with Yule and the Yule goats last episode, right? And then it was brought into Louisiana, but I also read somewhere, oh yeah, on ancientorigins.net, that apparently it was often violently suppressed in the US, that if anybody tried to bring in voodoo, they were probably executed on the spot to keep it out. But it was brought in through New Orleans. The religion itself believes in one god, Bondai, but also believes in spirits, or what are called Iwa, who are called to for aid. And here's the thing, is that there are often these misconceptions, and basically Hollywood and television have perpetuated voodoo as being about these evil black magic, dark magic, evil incantations. But technically it's a full religion, and there's ceremonies, but most of them are about healing and connection with your community, not about necessarily doing evil things. But again, definitely some cultural appropriation going on, and that's a whole thing, cultural appropriation, because there's a fine line where is it being celebrated and actually appreciated, and at what point is it being stereotyped and cliched and run down. And I would say a lot of Hollywood movies do play it off as like this evil religion that just haunts on people and gives evil people a way to do their evil biddings, which is not the case. But also, apparently it was, again, mostly suppressed in the U.S. until the 19th century, when Marie Laveau, I've heard her name, but apparently she started organizing the religion quite a bit more. And this website, ancientorigins.net, says instead of thinking of it as just like black magic or dark magic and evil, think of it more as a way of life, guiding principles, much like a religion or a philosophy held by its believers. And I also wanted to add there that I couldn't find a source for this, but I've always heard throughout writing horror stories and watching horror stories that, in movies, it's always like, oh, somebody puts a voodoo spell or curse on you and you're cursed for life. That's even in the religion, that's not how it works. That's often understood that you have to believe and participate in the religion for anything to have any power or symbolism or influence upon you in your life. So anyways, when he says, do you believe in voodoo or not? It's not about believing in voodoo. Voodoo exists, and it's not what we know from television and Hollywood perpetuation. So that's my IQ for that. Up your.
Yep, I pretty much got the exact same thing.
So you called it out that I was gonna have a problem with that.
Yep.
Yep, you know me so well. So did you get a number of people who follow the religion or anything, or just that?
Yeah, I don't know worldwide, but in the United States, there are approximately 1.5 million adherents of voodoo.
Ooh.
The main centers are in New Orleans,
Yeah.
Chicago, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn. And it's a major religion in Haiti. And then, like you said, it kind of coincides with Catholicism too.
And from what I was reading, Santeria is often interconnected with it because it is also African religions and culture brought over and mixed with Christianity, Catholicism. But from what I was understanding, and if anybody out there knows more about it, I'm curious of learning about this. Santeria is more about calling on saints for help. So where in Catholicism, like there's a big movement where like if you can track down like the bone shards of saints, like they have magical abilities, like that falls more into Santeria than voodoo wouldn't have that as much. That's my understanding.
Okay. I just had a flood of memories as soon as you said Santeria because of the Sublime song.
Right? That I sung that song for so long before I realized that was a religion.
Yeah, I know. I had no idea.
Holy shit, I thought he was just making up words.
Yeah. I don't practice Santeria either.
It's like Ghibli Gook. Jibber Doo. I don't know. I thought it's just what he was doing. It sounded funny, but nope. I don't know. Well, I was only like 10 at the time. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the beliefs or non-beliefs of?
Nope. We covered it all.
Cool. All right. So we are back at the apartment, and Martha is talking to Sheldon, and she knows what Flatland is, and mentions that it's about what she says a treat. I'm going to butcher this as well. Treatise on Victorian social mores. And Sheldon says, I've never considered that. And he seems like he's really interested. And he puts his hand up like he's giving it deep thought. And of course, he's wearing the Hulk gloves, so Raj lost that battle. But Raj
this is what I'm saying. He and Martha would make us such a cute couple.
Right?
And honestly, they're both tall. And there's something kind of adorable when people find each other. When two tall people find each other. It's pretty adorable.
I just like that he's like this, and she had no qualms with him having the whole cam. Like,
yeah. She's into comics, and she accepts him for who he is, and she's into him.
But for some reason, she's dropped. So Raj and Abby are making out. So Raj is he's given up his goods, but he's winning. He's achieving, he got something out of the deal, right? He made it happen, and he's dating a girl he likes. Sheldon says it's late and it's time for bed. Abby's, I love this line. She goes, okay.
Martha gets Martha,
super,
okay. And, someone's thirsty.
And then he gets up and says, good night, pretty human, like the Hulk. So he's not inviting her to his bed. But in the last scene, She's knocking on his door and says that they're getting pretty busy out there and asks if she can hang out in his bedroom for a while. He says, okay, and lets her in. She sits by the bed and she seems excited there too. She's just such a cute character. I loved it. Like, okay. And he goes, okay, well, I'm going to go sleep in Leonard's room. Good night. And that ends the episode. And then we have the vanity card, which was a very long one. So I'll get going.
But I have a sip of water before you get started.
Clear my throat. Chuck Lorre Productions 273. I am writing this vanity card from deep in the jungle of Borneo. The heat is oppressive, the mosquitoes are relentless, and the natives are hungry for meat, American meat, specifically ground chuck. What was I thinking coming here for my Xmas break? What insanity led me to this godforsaken hell? Oh, how I wish I were back in Burbank. Oh, Burbank. Forgive me for not seeing your beauty when you thrust it in my face. But now that matters not. Or that matters not now. Either way, my time is running short. Funny how your perspective changes when the end is near. Being overlooked by the Golden Globes yet again seems so unimportant to me now. The fact that one of the natives about to eat me is a freelance show business reporter for the Kota Kinabalu Daily Bugle and a voting member of the Hollywood Foreign Press even provides me with some comfort. For as I close my eyes on this world, I'll at least know that while I may not be everyone's taste as television, if sautéed with butter and lemon, I will be to everyone's taste as lunch. Dun dun dun. But he lived because there's other episodes in Vanity Cards, so.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
Chuck these vanity cards are getting weirder and weirder.
Right? But who are we to talk? We spent like an hour talking about sex dolls.
Yep.
Or mostly me. I don't know. You just smile and nod.
That's all you.
It's all right.
I'm your wingman.
Yes, Ryan. You're not invited back next week for the podcast, Ryan. Fair enough. Alright, so that's it. Start doing some tallies here. Oh, both sides went up too. That's not fun. I thought one side had more. 84 not like Sheldon to 87 like Sheldon.
And we have 11 IQ points.
Damn!
This might be one of the highest IQ point episodes.
But I love these IQ points. They were all very fun.
Yeah, this was a great episode. Great IQ points. And hopefully people are still listening.
Hopefully. If not, well, we'll get you next time. We might not be to everybody's taste, but saute us and we will be.
Any last minute thoughts on this episode?
That's it. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, we did it. Another episode down. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com and we'll read your email out. And don't forget to leave us a review, like, and subscribe. See you next time when we talk Season 3, Episode 13, The Bozeman Reaction. See you next time.
Then.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Scroll. Thanks for listening.
Circles are so hot.